This is Wildcat Country.
Larson tipped it. Love has it. Lewis slams it, and Arizona wins it.
The inside scoop on the Arizona Wildcats.
It's Gunnar Maldonado. He's got blockers. Touchdown, Arizona.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to bear down.
Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country presented by Harrah's Auction Casino. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale. And normally I start off with some kind of tease. This one is a big one. We have a great show tonight. We had a chance, Shane and I had a chance to sit down with two great guests. We're talking to Brian Jeffries, who's the legendary voice of Arizona athletics. And we're talking to the Big 12 Tennis Player of the Year, who's already beating the pros, Colton Smith. I mean, we had a chance to sit down with him yesterday. Shane, this is a great show that you put together and some great conversations with both these guys.
Well, appreciate that. Every year you fret the end of the basketball season. What are we going to talk about? And we never have any shortage of things to talk about. And so, we're happy to have Brian on. We talk hoops, football, and baseball, all very relevant. And then Colton is he was just named the Arizona's Male Athlete of the Year at the annual CATSES Awards, I think they're called. So. He's racking up the accolades. He is probably arguably the top athlete on campus at the moment. Based on how well they're doing at their specific sport. Debatable, but he's up there for sure. And we had a great chat with it. We had with Colton. We're going to play that in a little bit. It's going to be fun. We usually just have one guest, but we decided to have two this week because there's always stuff to talk about.
Well, also, this show's going to have to live on a little bit longer because we're not going to be able to record until probably the second week in May. You're going out of town, so we gotta space it out. We need people to leave them with a little bit of extra since we won't be recording likely.
That's
next week.
That's the reason. Yeah,
that of course. Let's get to buy or sell. Number one, Shane, Carter Bryant declared for the draft. Not really a surprise, but buy or sell. We should not expect him back.
I will buy. No, we shouldn't expect him back. And I know Tommy Lloyd could be in kind of a tight spot, though maybe he, we'll ask Brian Jeffries about this, whether he has I'm sure he's working his back channels if he can to figure out, okay, if Carter's leaving and he probably has a good idea whether he is or not, who are we going to get to replace him? And so, and I think Tommy's earned the right. We should be confident in him to do that. Even, replacing Carter Bryant will not be easy. And obviously Carter could come back, but I think he has till the end of May to officially make his decision. So, look, part of me thinks Carter would definitely benefit from another year of college ball. I think that's more the fan in me talking. The bigger, more realistic part of me thinks he'd be absolutely crazy not to enter the draft this year when he's likely to be a top 20 pick and maybe even a lottery pick. So despite the NIL money he'd make, I know he already has that in place, that he would make if he returns. Who knows if he'll be as highly regarded a season from now? Maybe he could play his way up to being like a number 1 or number 2 overall pick, maybe. But you've seen it go the other way too, and striking while the iron is hot is important. So, no, I have thought from the beginning that I think he's more likely than not to go pro based on where his mock draft projections are, and the expected move of him declaring for the draft with the option to return hasn't changed my mind.
I'm going to sell this one. I think there's a legitimate chance that he comes back. I really believe that. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think, Tommy Lloyd probably has a plan. But I'm still going to lean 55-45. Carter Bryant returns to Arizona next year.
Okay.
Is
it just a gut feeling, or is it more just the hopeful Wildcat fan in you? Or,
I'm
just don't. Your thought processes.
I'm not sure. I know I've seen mock drafts, whatnot. I don't know if Carter Bryant's a lottery pick. I don't know if he's proven that he's a lottery pick yet. And I think one more year could ascend him, as you said, in a draft that is not as deep at the top, let's say, doesn't have that star that I know of. I mean, there's no Cooper Flagg, coming out next year, I don't believe.
He may be competing with Koa Pete and Braden Berries.
Right. One or two of those guys are going to stay. One or both those guys are going to stay for another year. I've seen mock drafts where Koa Pete doesn't go until the second round. I mean, you're not leaving Arizona after 1 year. You're going to make your NIL money and make a few $1 million. If I'm Carter Bryant, you can get paid $2 million, come back, and you're not guaranteed to go in the lottery. That's what I'm saying. So I still think he returns. That'd be my gut, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong. I don't have inside sources on that.
Yeah.
I do not know.
Maybe
I
Carter
don't know.
doesn't either, but I tend to think he's going to go. But I hope you're right.
So number two, Sidi Gueye, and his last name is Gueye, pronounced Gay. I'm going to go that way, like Muhammad Gay, who used to play at Washington State, now is on the Atlanta Hawks. He is exactly the type of defensive-minded player that Arizona needed in this class.
Yeah, I think 100%. Yeah. And by the way, I think you'll hear in the interview with Brian Jeffries, I think I mispronounced his name. I've heard it pronounced a couple different ways, but that may be other people like me trying to figure it out. So Sidi Gueye is how we want to pronounce. That's simple. That's good. You asked a couple of weeks ago which position Arizona needs to add on for next season, if any, and I said they need another big man for depth, and Gay definitely fits that description. Giannis's brother, who he was asked recently, because I guess he follows Euro ball pretty quickly or pretty closely, which current Euro player would be great in the NBA? Which one would he like to see? And the first one he mentioned was Sidi Gueye, and this was a couple months ago, I think. So that's a good sign. Now he's an international guy, so you always have to wonder how he'll acclimate to the American game. Doesn't turn 18 until October, super young, but he's a guy who can, from what I've heard, is he can defend not only in the front court, but can also defend out in the perimeter as well, with that wingspan of his. So that's going to be important. Even if, in his freshman year, if he plays, 10 minutes or so off the bench and contributes, that's going to be big. I think it was a big ad for Arizona.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, this is a guy that, probably will play, that doesn't need to score, that, kind of like a Koloko his first year, where you're focused, he's focused on defense, and that's what we need from our big men. Awaka's a rebounder guy, rebounder and can score. Obviously, Krivas, I would say more of the offensive player among those two. You don't know what you're going to get from him coming off injury. This kid, skinny, but his tape looks good. And to be able to have a defensive stopper on true big men, I think this roster looks really, really good, Shane. And I would think if Carter Bryant doesn't come back, they will replace him with somebody else. But to have Koa Pete, to have Braden Burries, to have Dwayne Aristode, plus Jaden Bradley, who's declared for the draft, but he's coming back. He just testing, seeing where they would grade him out at. But plus Krivas, Del Orso, and Awaka. I mean, this is a squad, Shane. I'm feeling good. Feeling good for next year, I'll tell you that.
No, absolutely, you should. And I think Arizona is that they plugged all the holes. It's just a matter of, again, Caleb Love, you don't just replace a guy like that. And the question is, more so than any other year that Tommy Lloyd's been at Arizona, is, well, are the freshmen as good as advertised? And if Cole Peake come in and Braden Burries come in and Dwayne Aristode, if they all come in and play as well as their recruiting ranking and most in the services that you see, then Arizona will definitely be a contender, if not just in the Big 12, but nationally.
Number three, Matt Norlander of CBS Sports graded the 2021 coaching class, and he gave Tommy Lloyd a B+. TJ Otzelberger from Iowa State got an A-.
Yeah.
But Tommy Lloyd got a B+, basically saying that, hey, Arizona's been really good, but they haven't been to an Elite Eight, so I can't give them an A. You buying or selling, that is a fair grade from Matt Norlander.
I think it'd be hypocritical of me to sell it, since I've harped on that for as long as I have. But no, I'll definitely buy it. I think at most schools, just looking at his record in 3 Sweet 16s, it would be an easy A. But there are some schools, and Arizona is one of them, where that's not the expectation. Arizona has been regular season champions for a long time. Under Sean Miller, they were many years, and really under Lute Olson for a while as well. I've lightened up a bit in the last few years as far as being hard on coaches, Tommy Lloyd specifically, and I guess Sean Miller before that, as far as like not doing well in the NCAA tournament. But the fact is, Arizona fans, they got used to deep tournament runs during the Lute Olson era. He went to the Final Four 4 times in a 14-year span, once every 3.5 years. And even Sean Miller got to the Elite Eight 3 times and painfully close to the Final Four twice. So at other schools, again, maybe 3 Sweet 16 appearances are good enough to get that A grade. but fair or not, that's not how it works at Arizona. Like school like Duke and Kentucky, every year it's final, at least get to the Final Four. It's a disappointing season. Arizona may not be quite in that category, but the fact that Arizona hasn't been to the Final Four in now almost a quarter century, it's got fans hungry for it. And until that changes, it's that kind of chip on the shoulder that's not going to go away.
Yeah, I think it's a fair grade. I would probably give him a B plus as well, maybe even a B, because the seeds in the tournament have been great. The results, I mean, with the amount of talent that he's had, not making an Elite Eight, I mean, it's fair. Now, with that said, I just want to say that Norlander adds in, quote, and mark me down for Lloyd getting the Wildcats to the Final Four at some point in the next 4 seasons, which I think is fair, and I would certainly think the rest of us would hope so. If not, it's Sean Miller all over again.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it's got to even out, right? I mean, it's ridiculous how many times Arizona's been at the Elite Eight in the Sweet 16 and just hasn't gotten over the hump. You figure just by dumb luck they'd have get on a great run and have a good path and get there. And I think this team was Tommy Lloyd's most battle tested going into the NCAA tournament. They were a 4 seed, but they were a very well tested 4 seed, and they played very well in the Big 12. Got better as the season went on, and they just happened to get, at least going into the tournament, maybe the best team going into the NCAA tournament, as opposed to, the previous year, if they had gotten Clemson and Alabama, they probably would have gotten the Final Four, but it's luck of the draw. You think at some point in their lifetimes that might even out again. And so I agree. It'll happen eventually. It just seems like it never will because it's been so long.
Fingers crossed, Shane. Fingers crossed. Let's talk one football note. So Kean Burnett, former Arizona tight end, is back in the transfer portal. Buy or sell, Shane. Arizona needs him back and should accept him back if he wants to come back. Buy or sell.
It's hard to know without knowing more about the situation. I'll buy that it would be great to have him back. I'll sell that they need him. I mean, does he want to be at Arizona? I mean, he came to Arizona and maybe partly because he wanted to be with his Juice County guys, but I think mainly because he wanted to be coached by certain people and they're not there anymore. So if it's about getting better and working to take the next step to go to the NFL someday, then I don't know if he'd want to come back. But as far as Arizona's needs, I would love to see him back, but I think that's too strong a word. There are a lot of great players in the portal, and I mean, certainly Arizona is going to have an uphill battle to land a lot of guys, including guys as capable as Kean Burnett. But I think need is too strong a word in this case.
Come on back, Kean. Come on back. Real simple. Arizona, you need playmakers, and Noah has a rapport with him, and hopefully the Seth Agee would see, hey, this is a guy that needs to be on the field more than Arizona's last offensive staff saw that. So point that out. As always, Wildcat Country is brought to you by Harrah's Auction Casino. And calling all Wildcat fans, did you know that Harrah's Auction Casino is your local home for Caesars Rewards? Every play unlocks perks at more than 50 destinations nationwide. Enjoy free dining in Atlantic City hotel stays in New Orleans and exclusive rewards from coast to coast. Sign up today, earn reward credits, and experience nationwide play only at Harrah's Auction Casino, the official sponsor of Caesars Rewards in Arizona. Coming up next, it's a 2-pack of interviews, Shane. This is awesome. Brian Jeffries going to sit down with us, and then Colton Smith here on Wildcat Country. All right, Shane, we did a podcast, I believe, the same night as Arizona beat Iowa State in basketball. And the first thing I did after the show was I went online to listen to the call of one Brian Jeffries.
So did I.
I didn't want to hear the TV call. I wanted to hear Brian's call. So we welcome Brian Jeffries back to the show for the first time since November. All right, Brian, that shot by Caleb Love was just unbelievable. Where would you rank it just among single plays that are in your head and during your Arizona career? Where does that rank?
Well, I'll put it in the top 10. It maybe number 10. I just think that it didn't win a championship. It was a regular season game. It was a spectacular moment in a great basketball game, and those kind of things you certainly remember. The ones you remember more are the ones that are more meaningful in terms of, does it win a championship? Is there something more significant to it? I just think the way it unfolded at the end was pretty special. And that's why, like the coaches say, you play all 40 minutes. You don't take any time off because you never know when you're going to get an opportunity like that. And it goes that way in every sport. I mean, you got to play it to the end. And you never know. You got a chance. You might come up with something like that.
Well, and let's not forget that Caleb. I mean, he hit that. He was at not having a good game, and he hit that shot, and then he just went off in overtime as well. I think a lot of fans, including myself, maybe had some mixed feelings about Caleb until maybe the last couple months of this season. That the shot against Iowa State, obviously, and then he had two outstanding games to end his collegiate career against Oregon and Duke. Where do you think he ranks in terms of like the biggest like impact players in Arizona basketball history? I know they didn't get to a Final Four, but you still memorable guy for sure.
Well, yeah, and I mean, he still will be on the all-time points list. And gosh, you put the points he scored between Arizona and North Carolina, and the guy had a phenomenal college career when it comes down to it. Um, I found it interesting that I didn't know Caleb that well until we were in Morgantown, West Virginia, in the middle of a blizzard,
Mm.
and we were kind of stuck in the hotel. And so Tommy Lloyd decided that we were going to all get together in the some room there and play some games just to take our minds off sitting in, the middle of a blizzard in West Virginia. And he divided us up to different tables, and I ended up at Caleb's table. And, I'd interviewed him before, but there's a difference when you interview somebody and then there's no microphone and you're just sitting there talking about whatever might come up.
Yeah.
And we started talking about his family and his childhood and so on. And that's when I really came to understand Caleb a little bit more and found out, really what he's made of. And sometimes athletes, you guys know this, there's a persona about them, a public persona that sometimes isn't the real person. And I think Caleb was an example of that. I don't think people really understood what he was all about and the connections he had with his family, his mom in particular, and just he didn't grow up in an affluent household by any means, and so that just gave me a lot more appreciation for him. And from that moment on, I kind of ignored some of those who criticized him because he would come off a little different at times, standoffish maybe in media situations, but the guy's really a smart, thoughtful man.
And I noticed after a lot of Arizona post game press conferences that his players would go out of the way to talk about what a great teammate he was. So it wasn't like they were directly asked about it, like they went out of their way to talk about it. So I agree that certainly the perception of him, whatever it might be, seems like it's off in some way and maybe not fairly for him. So looking forward to next season, real quick. This statement has become an evergreen one, but Tommy Lloyd just landed a top international recruit. This time it's a Sidi Gueye, I think I'm pronouncing that close to correctly, who's originally from Cameroon, played for Real Madrid in Europe, doesn't turn 18 until October, but I think that's a big ad for Arizona because they needed some depth up front with Henry Vesar and Emmanuel Steven transferring. With that addition, the great freshman they got coming up, obviously Carter Bryant's situation is still in limbo. What are your thoughts about how next season's shaping up for the basketball team?
Well, I think it's just one of those reload situations. And when you get into a program like Arizona and any of the top programs around the country, I mean, if you're going to sustain success, you got to be able to reload, and that's what Tommy Lloyd's able to do, both internationally and nationally and locally. I think that he's an outstanding recruiter.
Yeah.
All you have to do is look at what he did at Gonzaga for 20 years and what he's done at Arizona. And so this is the way of the world now, where you lose a lot of guys, just like Arizona lost a lot of guys last season, and you start scratching your head saying, what are they going to do? Where are they going to find talent to come in and replace Umar Ballo, for example? And then, they go out and find guys. I mean, that's what he does. And that's what you have to do these days. And so, on paper right now, I know there's going to be a lot of young guys on that team next year, but just pure talent wise, and I'm just going by what I read because I'm not a good judge and I've never seen these guys play in person. But I just think talent wise, they may have upgraded their roster significantly just based on their recruiting so far.
Another real quick basketball question. I'll let you get into it, Eric. Just based on previous years, the way Tommy Lloyd has handled the new world of the transfer portal, do you have any idea how he might be handling the waiting game with Carter Bryant? I mean, it's got to be tough not knowing what he's going to do, but just based on what you know about Tommy, you think he's You think he has a good idea of who he might try to get in the transfer portal to replace Carter if he does leave, if he's already working on that, or do you think Tommy's hands are just tied at the moment?
I have a feeling that Tommy Lloyd knows exactly what he's going to do. He may already know what Carter's going to do, for that
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
I think the relationship Tommy has with his players, I know that for a fact, that he has, the communication between his players is outstanding. And so, whatever conversations have taken place behind closed doors, I think Tommy has a really good idea what Carter's where he's headed. And they're prepared, like every coaching staff. I mean, you've got to have a list of guys and there's plenty out there. I mean, there's more people in the portal than there are probably landing spots.
Yeah.
And you may not be able to find somebody as talented as Carter Bryant, but you need another body. And so I'm sure that they will be ready no matter which way it goes.
We're going around the horn here, Brian. Shane's going to ask some baseball later, but I want to talk football right now. I know we're, 4 months away from a little under 4 months from when games are starting. What do you know of what Brent Brennan has done this offseason? Do you like it? Do you have any thoughts on what you expect to see from this team in the fall?
I really didn't see them during spring, so I can't tell you a lot about the new guys that they came in. I think my one conversation that I had with Coach Brennan, this was before spring practice, he indicated, well, it was probably earlier than that, that the changes had to be made, and both staff-wise and player-wise. And I think he recognized that. In fact, he kind of alluded to me. He recognized it in the middle of last season that changes had to be made. And so he did. He went out and did that. And that's tough. That's tough in particular when it affects staff members. But the business of college athletics and football being the biggest money maker of them all is, you don't have time to wait. You've got to go out and act quickly because you got to win. And if you don't win, you're going to be out of a job. And so I think that he knew he had to make changes. I really like what he's done, in particular with his two coordinators. I think that's going to be a tremendous boost. And then he had to go out and find, some new talent. It's not only the guys that he lost, but I think there's some guys that left the program. And again, this is my opinion, that they probably weren't unhappy that they did leave the program. And so they wanted to get some fresh blood in there, some guys that really wanted to be at Arizona and wanted to play for Arizona. Now, how successful they will be, I mean, we'll find out together starting August 30th. I mean, that's the bottom line is, you can watch, I've watched practice for years and I'm never right because every time they break camp in the fall, I think this team's got a chance to be really good. I mean, because I'm a layman, I'm sitting there on the sidelines. I've never played the game or coached the game. And I always think they look capable. And so I have a feeling I'm going to feel the same way this August is they look capable, but now they've got to go out and prove it. And what we found out is a pretty tough conference.
One thing that's really interesting is that Arizona's had a first round pick in 2 consecutive years for the first time in basically 25 years. When you had, Jordan Morgan go in 24 and then Tedero McMillan in 25. I guess from just a recruiting standpoint, you would think that this would help Arizona going forward. Do you think there's any impact, just in your opinion, of Arizona having back-to-back first-round picks, or is that kind of a irrelevant fact at this point in your mind?
Well, it should help. It can't hurt you. I mean, because the coaches sell that. That's a great recruiting tool. Hey, you come to Arizona and we're going to get you prepared for the NFL. And if you work hard, like, the guys you mentioned, Big Jonah, etc., then guess what? You got a chance to play in the NFL. They have to use that. It is. Now, how much of a factor is that in the current climate of college athletics? Maybe not as much as it used to be, because now it's, money is number one, probably playing time is number two, and if your school had a first round draft pick, is probably number three. I mean, that's just the way it is these days. So I know sure they flaunt that. They've got to. And why not? I mean, you've got guys like that have made a major impact, that are household names in college football and have a chance to do the same in the NFL. You got to take advantage of it. And that speaks volume. And the other half of it is, and you hope those guys follow through, that they become recruiters as well. And, how about if you're a high school senior and Tedero McMillan calls you up and says, hey, Arizona's a great place. That stuff doesn't hurt.
Let me ask you a little insight into Noah Fafita. You talked about you got to know Caleb Love a little bit and his character. Noah Fafita seems like a high character guy, but everything was going great for him, and then last year, not so much. And then he loses his best target slash best friend Teteroa McMillan. How do you expect him to respond to that kind of adversity, and how do you think Seth Diggy might be able to help him get back on track?
Well, again, this is just me talking. So my opinion is that Seth has done some things mechanically already to help Noah. And there was some things, in fact, Lamont Lovett, my broadcast partner who played football at Arizona, has a keen eye. And we talked about that throughout the season, that he was seeing things that Noah was doing that wasn't helping him. It might have been hurting him. And it kind of frustrated Lamont. And so Seth has come in, and that's the first thing he's done is change some mechanics that he feels will make Noah a better player, a better passer in particular, and help with his decision making on top of that. And the one thing about Noah Fafita that you should know if you don't know already, he is a sponge. He's one of those guys that he doesn't know it all and he admits it and he wants to learn. And anytime anybody that has the thirst to learn like that, I think is going to be successful. And so, last year, you remember the year before, he kind of got thrown into the frying pan, as they say, and it turned out to be a great move. Last year, it's almost like, okay, now I've got time to think about it, and things didn't go quite so well. And of course, it's not a one-man game, so it wasn't just him. I think there were some offensive line issues that probably hurt his performance. And, they also lost a guy by the name of Jacob Cowing who went on to the NFL. Right. I think people forget that as good as Teteroa McMillan was, there wasn't that counterbalance last year until really late in the season. They could develop another receiver to kind of take the attention away from T-Mac. So I think Noah's set for a big year. I really do. I think he's got great instruction behind him now, and he's got a great, will to win. And he is a leader, and he wants to lead. And I think the guys gravitate to him. So I wouldn't be surprised if, he is his best come this fall.
Yeah, and I remember Eric and I had him on a couple times before he even played a snap at Arizona. And I think I won't speak for Eric, but I think we both came across thinking he was a very impressive guy. Certainly sounded wise beyond his years, and I agree and hope he'll certainly have a bounce back season as well. Before we let you go, I want to ask you a couple baseball questions. We learned this week that a move that probably anyone following the team thought was coming. Owen Kremkowski, who's been by far Arizona's best starting pitcher over the last few weeks, is going to get the Friday start against TCU. So basically, he and Colin McKinney are going to be flipped in the rotation. Arizona's lost, I think, 3 straight series openers. So your thoughts on that move? And then Brendan Summerhill just got him back. Now he's out again with a hamstring injury. How big a loss would that be for Arizona if he misses additional time?
Well, I'll start with Kremkowski. He's 6'3", 168 pounds. And I can't believe how hard a guy can throw at 168 pounds and do it week in and week out. I remember when he had that start against ASU up in Phoenix, he went 8 2/3, 1 out away from a complete game. He threw, I want to say 104 pitches in that game or something in that neighborhood. And I remember Chip Hale saying the next day, he says, we got to take it easy on him. We got to figure out a plan here because, you don't throw those 104 pitches every week. Some guys do. But they were concerned, I think, because of his youth and his stature that maybe, well, guess what? He continues to do it.
Yeah.
And 4 straight starts now. He's been either in the high 80s or 90s over 100. So he's just I tell you what, just a phenomenal young guy that does things that I just can't believe when you look at him. You think, okay, well, yeah, but and then he goes out and surprises you. So as Chip said the other day, he's earned the chance to be their Friday night starter. And like you said, Shane, they've lost 3 straight openers. They're in a situation right now where I don't think anybody's going to catch West Virginia, by the way.
Yeah.
But you want to be in the top 4 so that you get that first day bye at the Big 12 tournament. Arizona owns the tiebreaker over ASU. If they can beat TCU 2 out of 3 this weekend, they would own the tiebreaker over TCU. They don't play Kansas this year. And so I think that's number one. That's the most important thing I think about this weekend is to win the series. They still have games to play after that, but still, if a tiebreaker comes down to it. And I think at least the national publications have kind of taken Arizona off the host list now.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get that back, they've got to win a series like this. And then they've got to win a series over Utah and a series over Houston to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of tricky part of their schedules. I mean, other than TCU, they don't have a lot of top competition, which is kind of nice. But on the other hand, you lose those games and you kind of slide down the list a little bit.
And I was going to say, I'm sorry, I mentioned to add to Summerhill.
Yeah.
He came back, and those first two games he came back, of course, it was like, oh my gosh, it's the same guy. If not better.
First pitch, he hits a home run.
First pitch, he hits a home run. So doubleheader Saturday in Lubbock, and I think he had a double. I think he had two hits early on, and then he grounded out to third base. And as he's running to first, bang, you can see it. He just pulls up.
Mm-hmm.
And the mood in the dugout between games, you could tell it affected the team. And they came out and won the second game, which, to their credit. But I could feel it being around the players because, everybody wants to win, and he's the guy that's been leading you to most of your wins. So when he comes back, I mean, they're going to be careful for a couple of reasons. One is if Arizona's going to make a deep run into postseason play, they need him healthy.
Yeah.
And number two is he's a projected first-round draft pick, and so you just don't want to take any chances with a guy like that. So Chip made it sound like it might be a week before they even test him. Even he's taken batting practice here the last couple of days, but that's different from running.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully they get him back for the stretch run for sure. Last question for you, Brian. We've covered a lot of ground. Appreciate your insight as always. My co-host has changed his tune a little bit about Chip Hale over the last year or so, but he's still adamant that Chip has something to prove as far as being able to win in the postseason. In your opinion, how much of that is within a manager's control or a coach's control at the baseball level or the college level? And how much of it is on the players to perform in regionals and beyond versus what the coaches do?
Well, I think in college baseball, it's recruiting, and that's what it's all about. Baseball is a team sport, but it's an individual sport. If you come to the plate, it's you against the pitcher. There's not a whole lot that the coach can do from the dugout at that point to change things. And if you're if you're playing defense, it's kind of the same thing. You got to catch the ball, field the ball, etc. So I think in college baseball, it comes down to recruiting. And if you have the right talent, you're going to win. And let's just go back to Jay Johnson, the most recent coach at Arizona. I mean, he got the Wildcats to the World Series because he brought in great talent. And he goes to LSU, and guess what? He wins a national championship. And they'll probably be back in Omaha this year because he's able to draw that type of talent. So I think that's Chip's challenge is to continue to bring in top talent. And it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, Major League Baseball takes a lot of guys away. Even though the minors have been cut here recently, there's still, and hopefully one thing that could change, I think, is the scholarship limit. If it goes up here for baseball now, instead of what's it, 12.75 right now, nobody gets a full ride. And if they change that, which they should have done a long time ago, in my opinion, and you can offer full ride scholarships to baseball players, as well as some other sports in college athletics, I think it's going to help everybody. So, I think Chip's a fantastic coach. I think that he will readily admit this, at least he did to me, and that is that his first couple of years, he was learning on the job. So pro ball and college ball are a lot different. There's just a lot of things that you have to do in college sports that you don't have to do at the professional level. And so it took him a couple of years, I think, to kind of figure out how to coach college baseball. And now you can kind of see it starting to come around. And I think they're going to get to postseason play, and I hope they can win some games. And if you look at the raw numbers right now, this team is in position where they should be able to do that. I mean, they should. We'll see what happens in June, I guess, by the time we get there.
Yeah, I need to take a step back. Chip proved something last year when they won. Listen, they went out and they won the Pac-12 regular season and conference tournament title. That shut me up. though I'd like to see him win a series or two in the postseason. Nonetheless, last question for you, Brian. Always appreciate having you on. What was your favorite Big 12 road trip this year, football or basketball or baseball?
Well, favorite. That's going to be a challenge. No disrespect to the Big 12 cities we visited.
I was going to say, I bet you're going through your least favorite right now, aren't you?
Well, football, let's see. We went to Manhattan, Kansas.
Yeah.
Nice college town, a great stadium, tremendous fan support. Of course, it's clouded in my mind because Arizona got, boat run in the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Went to Orlando. Nice.
It was really
city.
a boat run. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which.
Nice city, boat run in a lackluster stadium in front of a lackluster fan base. Favorite. And basketball, it was weather everywhere we went. It was winter. I mean, that's what it's all. You go to the Midwest, it's winter. I mentioned the blizzard in West Virginia. We had snow in Cincinnati. We had incredible wind in Lubbock. We had, it was 1 degree in Stillwater. I mean, you just go on and on. The nicest weather we had, I think, was in Provo, of all places, in the middle of the winter. So I don't know that it's too early for me to start coming up with favorites. I haven't seen all the Big 12 cities yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. So
Yeah.
once we get to a few other places, then I can answer that more.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up on that, just because I know Tommy Lloyd caught a little heat when he was sort of, I guess, challenged Arizona basketball fans to be as loud as they were in Lawrence, and I think Ames, Iowa as well. I know you got the headset on, so maybe you can't, soak in the atmosphere quite as much as some others can. But were those arenas just as loud as McHale or more so, in your opinion?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean that's the one thing that stood out to me about the Big 12. Everywhere we went. Either it was full or it was almost full, and the fans got there early. They were loud. The only place it was not full was in Morgantown in West Virginia, and they were telling people don't leave your house because of the weather. And so they had 6,500 people still showed up,
which is still more than you get in Berkeley or at Stanford.
I'm sorry. I misspoke there. They had 10,000 in Morgantown. They had 6,000 in Stillwater. Okay. And they weren't having a very good season.
No.
Number one. And it was also 1 degree. And so same thing. They're telling people if you don't have to go out, don't go out. But the West Virginia crowd was great. They had 10,000 there. And the fans in Stillwater, all 6,000, made a heck of a lot of noise. The atmosphere everywhere we went was absolutely tremendous, and which I was looking forward to. I'd heard about it. And it was everything that I'd heard about was true. I think it makes for better basketball. Yeah. Arizona had a winning record on the road. Okay, well, that means you've got a good team, number one. And I think this Arizona team this last year, they relished the idea of going into those arenas and being the bad guy. And I think players, excel at that. If you're a good player, if you challenge yourself, you love playing in arenas like that in front of all those fans. So it was fun. Yeah, the weather was challenged. The traveling was more of a challenge. I think once you get to know the Big 12 cities, it becomes easier. I'm sure, I've talked to the Big 12 people that have traveled now to, Tucson and Phoenix, Tempe, Salt Lake City, and Provo. They're learning new venues and new cities now. Yeah. So they're going through the same thing we are, just in a different direction.
For the record, Shane, I will not make a Big 12 road trip until Brian approves. We'll have to have him on in the fall and next year to give us more reviews.
Does that include Tempe or no?
I've done that trip enough times.
Okay.
We'll just move on from there. Brian, always great to talk with you. Thanks for joining Shane and me, and look forward to chatting with you, I'm sure, again before the football season.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Discover more Play for All at Harrah's Auction Casino.
Hi, folks. Here are your drinks.
Where having fun means racking up reward credits with the Caesars Rewards loyalty program that can be redeemed for food, free play, hotel stays, and more. Not only here in the city of Maricopa, but also at more than 50 Caesars properties coast to coast. From Harrah's Las Vegas to Caesars Palace in Atlantic City. What are you waiting for? Play for All at Harrah's Auction Casino, the official sponsor of Play.
Shane, what timing? We now have the Big 12 Tennis Player of the Year, Colton Smith, joining us on Wildcat Country. This is a get that, Shane and I both wanted to have you on because you were the Arizona Athletics Male Athlete of the Year. You just kick butt now, and you're even beating the pros. I'm just going to start off with a generic one. When you're playing guys like Fognini at Indian Wells, former top 10 player in the world, do you get nervous, or is it just another match like you're playing in college?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely get nervous. I mean that was one where I haven't been that nervous for a match in a long time. I think that first game kind of showed it. But yeah, it's cool because they're all new experiences right now for me, and so I think that's kind of the nerve-wracking part of just being on that big stage and actually seeing those names for the first time. But then it was kind of like I went to Phoenix right after Indian Wells, and that was the second biggest tournament I played. But it felt like it was just another few matches, and so it's just kind of, I think, getting that exposure and kind of being able to work through some of those nerves and that experience, and then it definitely has set me up pretty well for the rest of it. Because then even like Houston, when I went and played that for the most part, the first handful of rounds until I got to Tommy, it felt very kind of comfortable and everything.
Colton, thanks so much for joining us. We mentioned before we started recording, we've had Coach Shields on a couple times, but I believe you're the first tennis player we've had on the show. So we appreciate it, and the timing's fantastic. Just to back up a little bit, you grew up on a farm in Washington State.
Yeah.
You like to rock cowboy boots. You got the mustache going. You love to you love to fish. And there's a great story written about you at atptour.com that mentioned you brought a pair of fishing rods with you to a recent tournament.
Yep.
How does a guy like that get into tennis in the first place?
That was just kind of with my dad, and it was just something that was fun to do. I was playing baseball at the time when I was like 6, 7, and I started playing tennis. I was like, oh, this is way more fun. I get to hit the ball every time. And
right.
So, it was always kind of a hobby, or just a sport that I enjoyed playing. And I think, or more so for my parents, for me, it was like, I enjoyed it a lot. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to be a professional tennis player, but I get maybe playing an hour every couple days wasn't necessarily the right path. I guess it was the right path for me, but for a lot of people, maybe they got to take it a little more serious from the get-go. But it's just always been something that's fun. And I mean, it's been tough to find court time and find people to play with throughout, but I had an amazing coach in Jody Rush who definitely helped out a ton and saw a vision for me in my game, and we kind of stuck to that. And so it's cool to see it paying off now.
Yeah, you were a great tennis player coming out of high school, but it seems like you've made just a big leap in the last year or so. Competing on the ATP Tour, beating some very good competition. You're just named the Male Athlete of the Year by U of A, Big 12 Player of the Year, the Universal Tennis Foundation's Hurd Award champion. I can go on and on. What's been the big reason behind all the success you've put together, maybe toward the end of your collegiate career?
I think it's just everything that's come together through the team and the coaches, and I think the support system from my family and everybody there is just kind of continued to trust the process and keep chipping away at it bit by bit, and not getting caught up in the results necessarily, but just really just going out there every day of like, all right, we have a purpose with this. And then you get the opportunities. I think that was the biggest thing, is I've been able to get so many opportunities this year, and then just to be able to capitalize on those, and you start building some confidence in the beginning, and it keeps snowballing in a good way. And so, yeah.
Why Arizona? Of all the places you could have gone, how'd you choose down here?
That's a big part of it is Clancy. Just kind of he was one of those coaches that saw the vision in me in the recruiting process, and that was going into college. That was what I was looking for, was a coach that I felt could take me to the next level. And there's a ton of great coaches out there and everything, but he was young. He seemed hungry. Kind of what he had done with Arizona and where it was going was something that I thought would be so cool to be a part of. And it's just been a dream come true to be able to actually have done all the things that I thought were possible and Clancy thought were possible with this program. And so, being on the West Coast too, it's close to home, and it's Arizona. So you're playing outdoor tennis every day of the year, which is so nice, because Washington, it's 9 months out of the year, you're indoor tennis. And so I was like, all right, I've figured out how to play indoor tennis for the most part, but I need I need to figure out how to win in a place that I don't like playing, like Tucson, Arizona.
I mean, there you go. At least, hey, you're brutally honest with it. I know Shane's going to ask more about tennis questions. I got to ask you this one. You go to U of A. You've had like the softball team, I believe it was, came and cheered you on last year. What other sports do you like to go watch? Wildcat sports, and any maybe friends that you have on other teams that would stand out?
Yeah, no, it's super fun to go to them. I mean, gymnastics is always so fun to watch because you see them doing all the flips and tricks on TV, and then you actually go there and watch it in person. You're like, holy crap, I can't believe people can do this. And it's like people that you see every day. And then, I mean, softball is always fun to go to. They're always having a great environment there. The basketball games are unreal. That's something that I'd never been to a basketball game before coming to college, and I've been to a handful, and it's such a cool environment to be able to go there and witness it and be a part of that team. And so, yeah, those are super fun. And then the football games, of course, too, are fun. They're a little warm. I like the evening ones a lot better, but it can get a little hot when you're baking on the bleachers there. But yeah, I mean, I love all the sports. They're fun to watch. It's fun to be supported by everybody and to go out and support everybody.
Yeah, well, and Eric mentioned this briefly, but one of my favorite things I've seen as a Wildcat alum since we've been doing this podcast is when the softball team came to support you last year at the men's tennis championships in Stillwater, Oklahoma, because they happened to be in town to compete against Oklahoma State in super regional. So it just kind of came together. You made a deep run in that tournament. You took down a Sun Devil along the way. It's kind of funny because I like a lot of people when they're, because I have a regular office job, and like they'll try to sneak in like watching the NCAA tournament when it's going on. I actually was like sneaking in watching some of the live stream of you getting all the way, I think, to the semifinals in that tournament. What did what did it mean to have your own cheering section there as you advanced in that tournament?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's such an advantage. I mean, just as far as atmosphere goes, but also just like to feel supported in that way of like not. It feels like, all right, I'm not just doing it for myself again. I'm doing it for Arizona. That's why we're here. That's why we're competing in college athletics. And so, yeah, it's fun. I got a ton of friends on the softball team as well. And so to see them there and kind of their support and everything, it meant the world. But then, yeah, to have that cheering squad where nobody else has that there at the tournament. And so you got a leg up on them for sure. And yeah, it's fun. It feels like a college match, and it's a home match for you.
Yeah, I mean, is that something that actually makes a difference for you? Like, because I mean, like you said, like you were the only person there that actually had like a lot, like their own cheering section. Did that help move you forward in that tournament?
Yeah, I would say a big part of it definitely helped me. I think a big part of it too definitely got in a lot of the guys' heads of like they were expecting just to go out there. It's going to be neutral, just kind of one-on-one, and then you get the whole softball team showing up, which is probably one of the more
like,
rowdier.
are we in Tucson? Or are we on Stillwater? What's going on?
Exactly, yeah, and they're definitely. I mean, it's softball, so they're definitely getting after. They're getting rowdy out there, and so it's it's definitely messing with some guys for sure. And so it's always nice to have that in the back pocket when you need it.
Well, let me ask you about the team this year. You and Jay Friend in particular have been on a tear. You perform great on singles and in doubles. You're the number 10 overall seed nationally. What's been the key for this team to maybe to take the next step forward this season and be as dominant as you've been, win the Big 12 tournament championship, and what's it going to take to advance even further in the tournament this year, NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean it's a super young team, so I think the leadership aspect of it has been huge. And I've been traveling a ton, and so I haven't always been there with the team. And so being able to have leaders like Jay and Iñaki and even Eric Padgham, who's become a great leader this year, I think just having those guys knowing that they're taking care of everything with the younger guys while I'm off traveling, and then you get to come back and join the team again, and it's fun to see the maturity from a lot of those guys kind of improving throughout the time, because I think a lot of time when you're with them, you don't necessarily see those jumps because you're with them every day. But then taking some time off and then coming back and seeing the maturity from a lot of guys like Sasha Rosen, who's been able to step up in a huge way for us, and the freshmen Philip and Zoran, who have been slowly starting to put it together throughout the year. And so I think in order for us to make a run, we're just going to need to show a lot more of that maturity. I think there can't be any days off now at this point within the tournament, and you're going to have to treat every match like it's your last.
I know how much you love animals, and you actually have a separate Instagram page where you show off portraits of animals that you made.
Yeah.
How did you get into becoming an artist? Is that a recent thing or is that a lifelong skill?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say it's too recent, but it's probably around 14, 15 is when I started picking that up. And it was just kind of just something where I saw a guy on Instagram drawing wildlife portraits. And I was like, hey, that looks pretty cool. I got some time on my hands. Let's start out and just kind of see. And so it was always just kind of fun for me to see, like, oh, what could I kind of get to with this? And so it's yeah, I ended up being able to sell a handful of them and kind
Oh
of
yeah.
fund some of my travels throughout. Yeah, I had to
Oh nice.
set up some flyers at the local club that we would play at and draw people's portraits of their dogs. And so yeah, it was just kind of something fun. And then after a little bit, kind of became a job. I was like, all right, I don't need to do this for work, so I'll stick to tennis.
And you even that story I referenced earlier mentioned you rescued a dog on a camping trip in Arizona pretty
I did,
recently.
yep.
Is that can
Uh,
you tell that story if you would?
yeah. So it was a camping trip and on one of the reservations, kind of on the Black River, and so I was wanting to do some fishing and try to find something new. I had a few days off, and so yeah, did the whole camping and fishing, and then on my way out, I was driving out through the desert and probably 5, 10 miles off the main road. I just saw this dog standing there in the road, and so kind of got out, saw if she was friendly or not, came right up to the car and lifted her in the back seat, and she slept the whole way back. And so yeah, I took her to the vet. She had some stuff going on with her skin and her immune system and worms and everything, but was able to get her back home to Washington maybe like a week or two later, and yeah, now
Man, a
she's living at home.
hero. On top of everything else, you're a hero for goodness sakes.
What kind of
Nah.
dog? What kind of dog is she?
I think she's a chow mixed with maybe an Australian Shepherd. I don't really know, but
Yeah, a
she's
mutt.
cute.
Yeah.
She's fluffy now.
Yeah,
She's got a lot more hair than she started out with.
that's good. Her name's Maggie.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's Maggie.
Okay. So, and you have you have is it your second dog?
That's our third dog.
Third dog. Okay.
We got two other ones, Finn and Raymond.
That's right. That's right. Your
Yeah.
sister, I'm going off that article. Like your sister had
Oh,
one,
yeah.
and then you have
Yeah.
okay. And last question for you, and appreciate your time very, very much. You got the regionals coming up here, and then you're looking to get. I mean, you got to the Sweet 16, been there, done that, looking to advance. But you having that home, I guess you call it home court advantage. It's court. Being able to have that advantage for Arizona fans who they come out and they've seen basketball and football, but they've never actually gone out to see a tennis match. What would you tell them as far as like why they should come watch you guys in the national tournament and just what they can expect when they come watch?
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen tennis on TV, it's not that. It's the college version, which is it's a lot more energetic. You got guys yelling off the sidelines. You got guys on court yelling, just trying to get as much energy kind of going as possible. And it's a pretty great time. If you're gonna ever watch a tennis match, I would say college tennis is the more exciting version of tennis to watch. And yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's gonna be our last time for three of us. It's gonna be our last time competing in Tucson ever. And so yeah, it's last time for the year. We're definitely gonna try to put on a good show for everybody that's coming out. That's for sure.
I lied to Eric. I got one more. Your personal goals, is it just as
Yep.
simple as being the best tennis player in the world?
No, it's just being the best tennis player I can be. I think there's not really dollar signs or rankings or anything like that that's motivating me too much. I mean, that's great factors and things to achieve, which
Yeah.
I don't mind that at all. But I mean, I love tennis, and so it's something that ever since I was younger, I've always been trying to improve, trying to get to the next level. And so for me now, it's like, all right, who do I need to play to kind of get exposed in some areas and figure out what it is that I need to go back and work on, and then keep going from there. And I think over the next few years, once I feel like I've reached as far as I can take it, then we'll kind of reassess what the goals are from there, and then yeah, whatever I can do to get a ranch at the end of it.
I mean, for those who are wondering, per the ATP Tour page, you've made 106K thus far in your career. Not bad for being a college athlete on top of everything else. Way to go. I mean, hey, it's a pretty good thing. What kind of personality are you on the court? I mean, you seem so chill in this interview. Are you a fiery guy, or are you just kind of like laid back, like, let it be?
Yeah, I mean it's an endurance sport, so you're definitely a little more chill for the most part. And I would say the pro tournaments, I'm a lot more chill. Kind of, I'm trying to stay locked in for the most part, but I'm not going off and doing reckless stuff necessarily. Or I'll get the crowd involved a little bit when I feel like I need to. But yeah, college is a different story though. I mean, doubles is you're yelling, you're trying to get everybody fired up, and then singles a little bit too. It's fun to find the hate. I think I mean, I'm not going to get to do that a ton in the rest of my career. And so this last few weeks or whatever I have with college tennis, I'm gonna enjoy it as much as possible. And yeah, try to get to do something I'm not going to get to do again.
So what happens next? You're almost done in college, as you talked about. You're gonna win some big things. You're already Big 12 Player of the Year. I mean, the list of awards is too long for me to start reading here. Do you want to get in the U.S. Open? Do you want to play Wimbledon? Like, what's your rest of the year look like?
Yeah, so I'm my rankings actually gotten me into all the majors so far, and so once we're done with NCAAs, I'm flying to France, and the French Open will be the first one I play, and then spend a few weeks over there trying to get used to the grass and play Wimbledon, and pop back here and kind of figure out what the next step is. But then, yeah, I'll be playing U.S. Open and all those tournaments after that.
Congratulations.
I'm just curious that just from because I've never played just the difference between playing on grass versus clay. Like, why are some players have a much easier time with that than others?
I think game style is a little bit. I think once you figure out the movement, but I've never played on grass either, so I don't. We'll see once we get over to Europe how different it is.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely some movement deals, some footwork techniques and different things like that I think some people pick up a little quicker than others. But I mean, you figure out how to move, then it's quite a bit easier, I think, to transition the game style over a little bit. But yeah, it's just kind of whoever's more comfortable on the surface.
Right.
Last one for you. Who are you most excited to play? Of all the pros going forward, who's the one that you're like, I want to take this guy on?
Yeah, well, it was Tommy, and then I got to play him a few weeks ago, so that was pretty cool. So I guess probably the next step up is somebody in the top 10, maybe Alcaraz or Sinner, one of those top dogs.
You got to practice alongside I think Djokovic at Indian Wells, is that right? He was there.
I saw him there.
He was there.
I saw him there. I didn't really see him practice too much.
Okay, but that would be a goal.
That would be a pretty cool one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind playing it.
Colton Smith, Novak Djokovic, first round of Wimbledon. Who says no? I'm just saying. I mean, listen, the exposure. You're on center court. If you get on center court at Wimbledon, I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. I mean, that'll mean I qualified too. So that's a couple matches under the belt there. So I'll take that.
Hey, best of luck with everything. Thanks so much for coming and chatting with Shane and me. You're a good kid. You're doing a great job, and you make us proud as Wildcats. So I wish you all the best.
That. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was an awesome set of interviews. We'll talk more about that in a second. But first, Shane, it's time for our third segment, which means Shane's standouts. What do you got for us?
Well, let's shout out a pair of Big 12 Coaches of the Year. Clancy Shields for men's tennis, and then Giovanna Maimon for women's golf. Both coaches led their teams to the conference tournament championship. I believe that I think Giovanna was maybe Desiree's first coaching hire at Arizona. It's been a very good one. So congrats to both coaches. Very well deserved. And not Clancy's first Coach of the Year award, and probably not his last. Also, speaking of men's tennis, along with Colton's Big 12 Player of the Year award, Jay Friend was first team All Big 12 singles and doubles. And he was named the Big 12 Scholar Athlete of the Year for men's tennis. So congrats to Jay on that. Stop me if you heard this one before, Eric, but Devin Netz is Big 12 Pitcher of the Week after throwing a 3-hit shutout against San Diego State last weekend. She's also been named a USA Softball Player of the Year finalist. I think she's one of 25 finalists. Great comeback story. She missed all of last season due to injury, but she's been dominating as a pitcher and a hitter this season. She leads Arizona in a lot of hitting categories as well, and she pitched a perfect game this year, so congrats to Devin. And finally, how about a little beach volleyball, Eric? Ashlyn Zillikin, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She was named to the All Big 12 team. She and Madeline Walker had 21 wins this season for beach volleyball, including a victory over number 1 TCU. She's only a sophomore, so this is probably just the beginning for her. So a big congrats to Ashlyn.
Great stuff on Shane standouts as per usual. So, Brian Jeffries, great to talk with him, get some insight on all the teams and find out about Big 12 locales. As I said, I'm not planning on traveling anywhere until Brian gives the go ahead. So, Colton Smith, though, when we talked to him on Wednesday, I said to him, I said, I should never admit this, but I have bet on you before and you won me some money. So, thank you. And it was embarrassing that I said that to a college kid, but I did. I
He
betting
wasn't
tennis is
embarrassed
very.
by it. I mean,
He thought it
that
was,
guy, he's super cool, chill guy. I mean,
I was embarrassed that I said it. Nonetheless,
Nah, you're good.
I was proud of him. I mean, when he played Indian Wells, he played a guy that was a former top 10 player in the world, and I'm like, yeah, I got to bet my U of A guy, and he's an underdog, and betting tennis can be fun. So, Shane, it kind of begs the question. I know you're not a big bettor, but if I were to say, here's X much, and you have to put it on anything that's Arizona related in terms of a team sport, I'm not talking like horse with Bob Baffert and Citizen Bull in the Derby or Todd Pletcher with Grande in the Derby. Like, give me a team or a player that is Arizona related that you would feel most comfortable betting on.
You're talking about like a futures kind of thing?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh boy. I didn't know this is the direction you're going to take this. What's Arizona football's win loss? What's the over under as of now?
At last check, it was 5.5,
5.5.
which is
Yeah, I take the under on that.
okay.
Yeah, I don't want to, but I'm going to. Men's basketball team, their championship odds. I think that there's quite a few teams that are higher than that have better odds than them. And you're looking at up stuff right as we're talking.
First of all, would you bet Arizona right now at 65-1 to win the Big 12 in football?
65-1. I don't know. That's probably better odds than ASU had last year, and they won it. No, I didn't. If it was like 650-1, maybe.
The over on FanDuel for Arizona football wins is 5.5. If you bet that, it's plus 120. So you'd bet $1 to win. Every dollar you bet would get you $1.20 in profit. Is that value for Arizona to make a bowl game and go 6-6?
Yeah, maybe. Are there? What about college baseball? Do we have any? Because I mentioned last week that I think that of all the teams that are headed to the postseason for Arizona, the team that I think is most likely to lose early and bow out early in the tournament is also the team most likely to go far, and in that case, the College World Series, which is the baseball team. And I'm guessing
60-1
to win the whole thing or get to the College World Series?
to win the whole thing.
I would be more inclined to take that bet, but like say $5, because I'm not a gambler, to put $5 on that versus Arizona football winning the Big 12.
The one where I'm going here, and you're going to think I'm crazy, and I've already done this. Arizona on FanDuel is 30-1 to win the national championship in basketball. And it's kind of a bet that Carter Bryant comes back and the team gels.
Yeah.
But right now, in looking at it, I mean, the Wildcats are basically the something like the 12th, tied for the 12th favorite with Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, UCLA, Illinois, Auburn, Iowa State, and Alabama. I'm sorry,
tied with those schools, or
tied with those schools at 30-1.
Okay,
on FanDuel.
Yeah,
Duke is the favorite plus 850, and you can go down the line. Kansas 1,700. Houston is plus 1,200. BYU is plus 1,700 as well. I think Arizona 30-1. Shane, how would you? I mean, whatever your bet size is, as I said, I've already put a futures bet on him, so it's going to make me even more crazy watching him next year. But that's value for a team that I think is top 5 good if Carter Bryant comes back.
Well, let me ask you this though: if he does decide to stay in the NBA draft, you think that those odds would go down a bit, and then you might want to grab that instead, right? Because I'm confident Ty Lloyd's going to be able to find someone, probably not as good as Carter Bryant, but someone to plug that gap and have enough talent around it to where, like, if they went down to say 50-1, I might be all over that. I don't know. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. Just the fan in me, because it's been so long. They've even got to the Final Four, but I might wait to see if he leaves, and then if he does, of course, I don't know. Maybe Vegas is already factoring that in. I don't know how that works.
I think they've already factored in that he's leaving.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I've seen it at 25-1 as well. I think now 30-1 that Carter Bryant's in the draft entry portal. I think it's really good value for Arizona there. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments or on X. We would appreciate it if there's some bets that maybe we didn't find that you guys have. Well, I mean, let me know. You think I've ever turned down a bet? Very rarely. Great show we had tonight, Shane. Brian Jeffries, Colton Smith. Thanks to those guys for sitting down with us. You and I will do a show probably May 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in that ballpark. So stay tuned. We gave you an extra guest tonight to listen to. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. So for Shane Dale, I am Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening. And as always, bear down.